For decades, the world has operated under a single, unspoken guarantee. The great arteries of the global ocean belong to everyone and no one. This is the bedrock of modern civilization. It is the reason you can buy a smartphone in New York that was assembled in Shenzhen, fueled by oil from the Persian Gulf. But right now, that bedrock is cracking. A single sentence whispered by an anonymous official and leaked to the press has just fired a shot across the bow of the global order. It isn't a missile or a torpedo, but in the world of narrative warfare, it is just as lethal. The claim is simple. A new truce is on the table, and part of the deal involves Iran and Oman charging fees for every ship that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. On the surface, it sounds like a bureaucratic detail in a ceasefire negotiation. In reality, it is a cognitive nuclear strike. If this narrative takes hold, the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most vital oil transit point, stops being an international waterway and starts being a private toll road. This is the end of the free seas as we know them. This is the moment where the rules-based order is replaced by a pay-to-play reality. And the most terrifying part? The battle has already begun. And it's being fought inside your head before a single cent has been collected at the water's edge. To understand why this is a masterclass in information operations, you have to look at the geography. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow choke point, a tiny strip of water through which 20% of the world's liquid energy flows every single day. For over half a century, the United States Navy and the international community have enforced a specific perception that these waters are a global commons. Even though the shipping lanes technically dip into the territorial waters of Iran and Oman, the narrative of international waterway has been the shield that kept global trade moving. Now look at how the narrative is being flipped. This isn't being announced as a hostile takeover. It's being framed as a truce. It's being wrapped in the language of reconstruction and regional stability. This is classic strategic messaging. By linking the right to charge fees to a ceasefire, the actors behind this claim are forcing the world into a psychological trap. If you oppose the toll, are you opposing peace? If you refuse to pay, are you refusing to help rebuild war-torn areas? This is how you weaponize a narrative. You take a radical change to the global status quo and hide it inside a humanitarian wrapper. The use of an anonymous official to leak this information is a calculated move in the war of perception. This is what we call a trial balloon. By using an unnamed source directly involved in negotiations, the parties can test the world's reaction without fully committing to a formal policy. They are watching the oil markets. They are watching the Pentagon's press briefings. They are watching how many shipping companies start recalculating their insurance premiums. This is psychological pressure at its most refined. If the global reaction is muted, if the world grumbles but ultimately shrugs its shoulders, then the narrative is solidified. The claim becomes a fact before a single law is ever signed. The presence of Oman in this narrative is perhaps the most brilliant tactical move of all. Iran on its own is often viewed through a lens of suspicion by the West. But Oman is the Switzerland of the Middle East. Oman is the mediator, the quiet diplomat, the friend to everyone. By including Oman as a co-beneficiary of these proposed fees, the narrative gains an instant code of legitimacy. It stops looking like an Iranian shakedown and starts looking like a regional consensus. It creates a framing where this isn't about aggression, but about two neighboring states exercising their natural rights over their own waters. But, make no mistake, the target of this information operation isn't just the shipping companies, it's the concept of Western deterrence. For decades, the U.S. has signaled that any attempt to interfere with the Strait of Hormuz would be a red line. But what if the interference isn't a blockade? What if it's just a bill? If Iran and Oman start charging fees, they aren't closing the strait, they are managing it. This puts the U.S. Navy in an impossible position. Do you start a war over a transit fee? If you don't, you have effectively conceded that the U.S. no longer dictates the rules of the ocean. This is narrative warfare designed to paralyze decision makers by changing the very nature of the conflict. The reconstruction excuse is the ultimate cognitive shield. By claiming the money will be used for rebuilding, Iran is seizing the moral high ground in the court of public opinion. It's a message designed for the global South and for domestic audiences. It says, "We are not the aggressors. We are the victims of years of conflict and sanctions, and we are simply asking for a fair share of the wealth that passes through our backyard to fix what was broken." It's a narrative of justice, and it's incredibly hard to counter without looking like a heartless imperialist. This is how you win a perception battle. You make your opponent's defense look like an act of cruelty. Think about the ripple effect this has on the battlefield of reality. The moment this claim becomes part of the public discourse, the risk of the Strait of Hormuz is repriced. Insurance companies, who are the most sensitive barometers of narrative shifts, begin to look at the waterway differently. If they start charging war risk premiums because of the potential for ship seizures over unpaid fees, the cost of oil goes up. This isn't just theory, it's an economic weapon. The narrative itself, even if the toll is never actually implemented, creates a ghost tax on the global economy. Iran wins just by making the world believe that the rules might change. This is a direct assault on the rules-based international order. That phrase has been the mantra of Western diplomacy for years. But that order relies on everyone agreeing to the same definitions. If Iran can successfully redefine international waterway into territorial toll zone, then the dictionary of global power has been rewritten. This is the cognitive warfare aspect of the move. It's about who gets to define what is legal and what is normal. If they can change the perception of what is normal in the Strait of Hormuz, they can do it in the South China Sea, the Bab el-Mandeb, or the Arctic. The strategy here is one of salami slicing. You don't try to take over the world's oceans all at once. You take a 2-week ceasefire. You add a small temporary administrative fee. You call it a regional initiative. Each slice is small enough that it doesn't seem worth a world war. But after enough slices, the old order is gone. The narrative of freedom of navigation is being bled dry, one anonymous leak at a time. The world is being conditioned to accept a future where the seas are no longer a common heritage, but a series of gated communities controlled by whoever has the most missiles on the coast. What happens next? The escalation ladder is already being built. Scenario 1, the soft launch. Iran and Oman announce a voluntary contribution for environmental protection or maritime safety. It's small, it's optional, but it establishes the mechanism. Scenario 2, the selective enforcement. Ships from nations that are friendly to Iran pass for free. Ships from the US, UK, or Israel are stopped for document inspection until a fee is paid. This creates a massive wedge in the global coalition. If you are a shipping company in Singapore or Greece, why would you support the U.S. position if it means your ships get delayed while others sail through? Scenario 3, the legal bog. Iran takes the issue to international maritime courts, arguing that the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea has been misinterpreted for decades. Even if they don't win, they create legal fog. And in the world of global trade, fog equals risk. Risk equals cost. This is the strategic goal, to make the Western-led system so expensive and so complicated that the world starts looking for an alternative. This is a narrative designed to erode the very foundation of Western maritime hegemony. The ultimate impact of this narrative warfare is the destruction of trust. If the world can no longer trust that the oceans are free, the entire global supply chain begins to fracture. Countries will start seeking shorter, more secure routes. They will start making side deals with regional powers. This is exactly what the architects of this toll road narrative want. They want a multipolar world where the U.S. Navy is just one of many players and where regional gatekeepers hold the keys to the global economy. As we move forward, the battle for the Strait of Hormuz will not just be fought with drones and destroyers. It will be fought in the headlines of financial newspapers. It will be fought in the boardrooms of Lloyd's of London. It will be fought in the corridors of the United Nations. Every time a spokesperson for a Western government fails to forcefully and unequivocally reject the premise of this claim, they are losing ground. In narrative warfare, silence is a surrender. If you don't control the story of the sea, you don't control the sea. The ghost of the toll booth is now out of the bottle. Whether or not Iran and Oman ever actually collect a single dollar, they have successfully introduced a new possibility into the global consciousness. They have forced the world to imagine a reality where the most important waterway on Earth has a price tag. They have turned a universal right into a negotiable commodity. And in the high-stakes game of strategic messaging, that is a victory that no aircraft carrier can easily take back. We are entering a new era of maritime history, an era where the maps look the same, but the rules are written in invisible ink. The Strait of Hormuz is the first test case. It is a warning to every nation that relies on the free seas. The message from Tehran and Muscat is clear. The ocean is no longer a gift. It is a product, and the price is whatever they say it is. The question is no longer whether the world will pay, it's whether the world even remembers that it used to be free. The narrative has been launched, the psychological pressure is mounting, the perception of the Strait of Hormuz is shifting from international arteries to regional property. This is how empires are challenged in the 21st century. Not with a bang, but with a toll. And as the world watches the Persian Gulf, the real question isn't whether the ships will keep moving. It's who will be holding the remote to the gate when they do. The battle for the mind is the battle for the sea. And right now, the toll booth is being built in the imagination of the world, brick by brick, word by word.